Hey guys, and welcome to Pheas Airsoft. Today I'm going to do a disassembly of the CYMA CM.515 budget AR. So I just want to make a note on safety. Whether I'm disassembling, unboxing, chronoing, whatever it is I'm doing, I always make sure I'm in a completely safe environment. So that means most of my videos I'm always wearing eye protection just to make sure that my eyesight stays safe. Before I do that, I always make sure that there's no ammunition in any of the mags or in the gun itself. I make sure that the mags are unloaded and unwound to make sure that nothing can happen with that. Obviously, if I'm chronoing, then I've absolutely definitely got my eye protection on to protect myself. I even make sure that my batteries are removed and out of the way so that I know I'm in the safe environment. I also make sure that there's nobody else around as well either, so I'm always in a safest possible environment. If you are working with airsoft stuff, please make sure you do the same. Hi guys, and welcome back. If you do like this video today or find it useful, please do drop a like or a subscribe. You'll be really helping me out. On a point of safety, obviously I am doing this in a complete safe environment. I've got my eye protection on. I've made sure there's no battery in it. I've made sure there's no ammunition in it as well, and there's nobody else around me. So I've kept it a nice, safe, controlled environment. So we've got the CM.515, and we're going to do a disassembly on this to show you how to get the various parts broken down. So we'll start with the front end. We've got the little key mod rails. So I'm just going to bring in my hex things. Hopefully I've got a small enough one on here without having to go and get my other set. No, we're good. So all we're going to do, I'll just demonstrate one. You just loosen off these screws. Now these ones are Torx screws on here, but sometimes they're Allen key bolts, and it just slides off. Now you can see under there's two like little shapes, so they stay in a set position, and there's a little notch underneath that they sit in. You choose where you want it, you slide it into position, and you tighten those down, and that's as simple as it is to adjust those rails to where you want them. Now obviously this includes 3 on the front, which means that you have got, you know, more than enough, I always find, to fit whatever accessories you want. So you might want to move one of the little ones to the back and fit a vertical grip, a little vert grip. You might even want to just get a key mod vert grip to go in there. You might want a flashlight, all sorts of things, bits and pieces can go in there. To remove the front sight, you're just going to need a small Allen key head. Let's see if I've got one small enough. I think I might be out of luck on this one. That might be. There we go. So you undo the screw and it releases the plate, and then that can be repositioned to wherever you want and then tightened back down again. I'll leave that out of the way for now. The flash hider, muzzle brake, there's not a grub screw in there, there is space for it, but it just unscrews the opposite. So what would normally be tightening it down will loosen it off, and what is loosening it off usually on a normal one is loosening it off. So as you can see there, it's coming off, and that leaves you with a negative thread 14mm negative thread under there. Now obviously the plastic is kind of sort of filled out the little gaps a little bit, so it might need a bit of cleaning, but you can put whatever you want on the front there. This isn't a metal outer barrel, so what we're going to do is I'm going to get my Phillips head screwdriver in that little Phillips head screw, and I'm going to undo that screw in there, and that comes out, and that, I believe I need to take that out as well. There we go. Lift that up and out, and then that just slides off the front end. If you want to remove the gas block and gas tube, you undo these 2 screws here, and this whole front assembly will just slide off and go off the end of the barrel there. And then to remove the rest of this system, you can either use grips or an armourer's wrench and just undo this screw, and that releases all of this assembly to come out of there. Then if you wanted to put a shorter barrel or a different type of outer barrel on there, that leaves you all of those options. So get those out of the way. Now I've done that, The rear sight is exactly the same as the front. You just undo the little screw and it can be adjusted to where you want. Next thing we'll do is we'll split it in half and we'll have a quick look at the hop unit. So I'm just going to undo that screw there. Sometimes these are just a plain pin, so you might have to just knock it through with a punch. Sometimes, like on this one, they have a screw on them just to help keep them secure. Now to me, I prefer the ones with screws because you generally know they're not going to come out easily, but obviously everybody's different. Push that out, it's quite stiff in there. Make sure you keep the parts together as well. And next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull gently, and it will eventually go. As I'm pulling it out, I'm going to lift the charging handle up as I'm going back, and it lifts it up and over this notch here, and then it's just going to slide off. It will be a little bit stiff, but it's absolutely fine. I can then slide out, there we go, the barrel and the hop unit. Let's have a look. It's actually, wow, that's spotlessly clean down there, and I'm going to adjust the hop to fully on. Don't know if you can see that. That's fully on at that point. You should be able to, you'll easily hop over at least a 0.25 gram BB on that. That's looking immaculately clean. I'm really impressed with that. If you wanted to remove the hop unit, you pop this clip out, make sure your hop's turned off, and then just wiggle it about and it'll come off. It might be quite stiff, particularly because they often put thread lock on there, so it might stick a little bit, but it will come off and it'll allow you to replace it. So I'll put that out of the way. Next thing I'm going to do, remove the stock. So I'm going to pop the clips there. Obviously we've made sure that it's nice and safe, there's no battery in the ear at all. To remove an M4 stock, you just adjust it to the back. Now they're often a little bit different, there's a few variations, but usually you pull down on this handle and that releases it off the back. On some brands and versions you may need to get pliers on there and pull it, you might need to get a screwdriver in and pull it further down. So obviously just be aware that yours might be slightly different. Next thing I'm going to do is down the stock there, I'm going to access that screw and I'm going to get my long screwdriver to access that. You might just need an extension bar on something like that, like a normal screwdriver. You can put an extension bar in. In fact, I'll get that one. So I have got my long screwdriver, or I could have used my extension bar with the bit in it. So the long screwdriver just goes down, it's a Phillips head screw, and you're just looking down there to see it. I'm just going to unscrew it. There we go. I'm going to hold the wiring down and tip it over. If that comes off, that just comes out of there, and it will drop out a lot, and you possibly even, as I often do now, forget to put it back in when I'm putting the receivers back together. So the screw came out. There's the stock screw, and this will now slide off. Now what you can do is I'm going to pop a screwdriver down the end, and I'm going to rest it on the silver bit there, and I'm just going to push, and that's released the silver plate out of the bottom. And what I can do is I can just maneuver the wire in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the black wire to go in the loop at the top, the hoop at the top, and the fuse holder then will come out of there, so I can fully remove that. Now when you're reassembling it, obviously you put your wiring back in. The best way to do it is drop your screw in like that with your wiring down, and I just gently put it down like that. Now it looks a little bit almost Batman-esque as a symbol, and you should see, hopefully down there, that there is 3 sort of prongs. The one at the top there sits with that, so it locates it and centralizes it, and helps to keep it secure. So next thing, we're going to remove the sling loop. That is plastic. It's probably not going to last too long when you're playing in a game before that breaks, so I'd consider replacing that with a metal one. Next thing we'll do the pistol grip. So Phillips head screwdriver. If you haven't seen my tools for airsoft teching video, go and check that out, just because it shows you the kind of things you might need and could need to do this sort of stuff. But it helps if you've got a variety of different screwdriver sizes in like a set. So I've released those 2 screws. Make sure you keep them together so you know where they are. And it is one of the ones with a tiny little grub screw for motor adjustment. So you get a little motor plate in there, so make sure you keep hold of that, because you will need that in there. And then we've got the traditional red wire at the front, black wire at the back. So I'm going to pull the red wire off. You might need to use a flathead, a little flathead or something, just to get in to pry the black wire off. And we'll lift the motor out. There's the motor. If you look down in the pistol grip there, the red wire comes up the front, goes across to the back, and then comes up the back and loops around, just obviously for when you're reassembling it. And then I'm going to use a Phillips head screwdriver to release the 2 pistol grip screws. There's one. So as per usual, I've got bottom right and top left. Some gearboxes, or most gearboxes, this one hasn't, but most gearboxes I'll show you now, have threadings to put 4 screws in if you want, and some brands actually put 4 screws in their pistol grips for security. So as you can see here, oh, it has actually, I didn't think it had. So you've got 4 threaded holes here that you could potentially, if you wished, put in 4 screws, excuse me, to hold down the pistol grip. Now I do like this cutout here where that basically has put the wire in well out of the way of the motor and brought it, you know, sort of almost into the casing or in line with the casing. So that's quite a handy feature to have in there. But we'll have a look at that more in a second. Next thing I'm going to do, oops, is I'm going to release the mag release. Now on this one, we've got a Phillips head screw, which I quite like. It makes it easy. Lots of different ones have slightly different. Some of them, for some reason, have grub screws. Some of them will have pins that go through the side. Some of them, you'll have to push the mag release in as tight as you can, and then you unwind it. So obviously, it's just undoing the mag catch based on what you've got. Now we've got this rear body pin and this little pin here to knock out, and then the gearbox will be out. So I'm going to undo this first. Now sometimes, if they've over tightened, there we go, this side, you might need to hold that down with pliers or grips so that you can get the traction to unscrew that screw head. Put that out of the way. Now I'm just going to have a look. It looks like that should go out the other way. I'm pretty sure the teeth are that side, so I'm just going to knock that out. So on this one, the teeth were on the left hand side of the receiver. So the teeth on the little pin were on the left hand side, just so we know when we reassemble it. Now that's all released up, so I'm just going to pull it up, and it might be a little bit stiff to just pull it up and forward at the same time, but eventually it will just pop out and release our gearbox. Now that's made me really happy to see all the blue plastic on there. So we've got the upgraded internal components, plastic components. So I've lowered the camera down so we can get a closer look at what's inside the CM.515 gearbox. Obviously it looks pretty much the same as the other sort of 60-65 pound M4 gearboxes. I'm loving that they've put the new bluer uprated components in there. It really makes me happy. You've got metal bushings in there as well, quite large bushings. So we're just steadily unscrewing the top 4 screws, keeping them in the right order so we know where they've come from. Now, because it's got a quick change, it's not got a quick change spring system, we are going to have to get a screwdriver in the back just before we split it to keep everything secured down. That one, I'll come back and do that one in a second. Now I'm just going to release this one. This one is screwed into the part of the safety system that basically blocks the trigger from moving. So we're ready to split it. So I'm just going to take a screwdriver, a slim one. I'm going to push it into the back, into the spring guide, and I'm going to push it down. So you can see there, a little bit of movement. I'm prying it down whilst I lift the top of the gearbox. And that's to stop this spring guide firing out of the back of the gearbox, you know, clearing across the room, possibly hurting somebody or something if I wasn't in a safe environment. But there we are into the gearbox. So first thing I'll have a look at, so you've got your blue plastic spring guide, fairly solid. Obviously it would be nice if it was metal one, but for a budget, you know, 60, 65 pounds, 69 pounds, you can't really complain. There's your spring. It's just a linear spring. You've got your nice blue plastic cylinder, piston and piston head. You've got a nice cylinder in there. We'll have a look at air seal. So I've taken the air nozzle off, so I'm just going to put my finger over the end. There's no venting, so a little bit of pressure, but not much. I can still get it all the way in. I can feel that there is a little bit of build-up of pressure, which, you know, it is a 1 joule version, so this came out of the box at 330 FPS or thereabouts. So it's obviously just something to be aware of, that spring, if you change the O-ring, possibly could give you higher FPS. And obviously if I put the air nozzle on again, I'm just trying to check for trapped air. I'm getting very, very similar levels of resistance, but it's, you know, it's moving down. You've got nice sort of plastic tappet plate there. Even the trigger unit is in the blue plastic, although it does look like there is a crack there. It looks like it's a little bit damaged. I don't know whether that's beforehand installation or if that's as part of the installation, or, you know, just being in this gearbox has damaged it. But as you can see there is definitely a crack in there. The gear set looks like your standard 18:1 gear set. Looks okay, nothing obviously amazingly special. It does look like they've had a good attempt at shimming it as well, and it sounds pretty decent. I just want to show you, this here is the cut-off lever. So what happens is, under the underside of the sector gear, you have this little triangle notch. It's there. As that turns round, it touches, if you've got it in single, it touches on that, and that lifts up and pulls the trigger, this little trigger block, and releases it back so that the gun cuts off basically. So you get one shot and it stops. In full auto, as it is at the minute, this is the full auto position. This is completely removed out of the way of this little latch, so this gear can just keep spinning wherever you keep holding down the trigger. Okay, and that's how your single shot and your full auto works. And it's pretty much an identical system in the AK and things like that. Anything gearbox based, you basically have a cut off. The only time it would be different is if you've got like a gate tighten in there, and that would obviously use the optical sensor to detect a cycle completing based on these teeth here that pull the piston back, and when it finds the last tooth of the piston, it knows that it's fired a shot, and then it can stop the motor, and it tells the chip, that's it, we've done a shot, and it cuts off. Obviously if you've got it to full auto, it ignores where the teeth are and just says, yeah, keep going, keep going, keep going, and on and on. So as we've seen before, it's fairly well built inside. You know, it's pretty much their bog standard. I do like the cutout and the hook there. You can see the wire is now hooked out of the way. That's a beauty, because often at times people get issues with their electrics, and it can be because this wire has lifted up and been caught by the motor or whatever, and has basically been shredded and things. Got your anti-reversal latch here that stops the gearbox winding backwards, which can cause issues. So all in all, a fairly nice, well-built package. Again, the value for money is just exceptional out of these. You get so much sort of for your money, really, bang for your buck, and a great platform to build on. You know, the first thing you might want to do is upgrade to a full metal receiver, and then you might want to change your front end or so on and so forth. And it just gives you a lot of versatility to build on. So I hope that's been useful to you. Please do make sure you like and subscribe. If you've got any questions, leave me a comment below, and I will see you next time. Bye.